Welcome to the Studio African Utility Week. I'm Rose Bundock and I'm joined now by Wilfred Shereni, Senior Manager at the Zimbabwe Electricity Transmission and Distribution Company.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Rose.
Now, the ZETDC has been in the news lately for putting out a tender for smart meters, which was then withdrawn. Could you give us a little bit of the background about that?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the tender for smart metering. Actually, on our metering strategy, we implemented the prepaid metering, and the next phase is the smart metering technology. So the initial approach was to go 300,000, and the 300,000 was going to be deployed ad hoc at all customers. But after re-looking at our business requirements, we realized that the 300,000 were a bit of an overkill. We're not going to derive much value. So we reviewed the figure to 60,000. The 60,000 is based on a targeted and tailored approach, where only the medium and large power users are going to have smart meters. In other words, the lower end of the customers, they are already catered for under the prepaid metering technology, which is doing very well in terms of revenue collection, temper detection, everything. So there's no need to replace that technology for now. So the revised scope is 60,000, which is targeting the medium to large power users. Medium, that is basically your small to medium enterprises.
Okay.
So the main objective is to convert all customers to prepaid, including the big customers, because we also have got a problem at that level of non-payment. So the expectation is that if we convert customers to prepaid, it will improve our revenue collection. Correct.
So was it a case of political interference in putting out an original tender for 300 meters that wasn't actually needed?
Yeah, it might. I wouldn't take it that way. Of course, there were perceptions that it's political interference, but truly speaking, it wasn't political interference. I think it was the initial approach. There was maybe any underestimation on the need for smart metering, where the perception was that the prepaid meters that we've installed, customers are tampering with them and there's rampant theft. But what we have done is that we have put initiatives in place, like mounting them on the pole, and also the meters that we have put the prepaid, they are not very dormant. I mean, they also have got they've got dormant. They are not dumb. I mean, they've got dormant smart metering technology. I mean, functionality, which you can activate by putting additional components like data concentrators. So we can still achieve the required revenue protection features by activating those. So there's no need to replace them for now. So I'm just dispelling the notion that it was a political interference. It wasn't. It was more like, I think, a perception that the current prepaid meters are not doing well. Let's replace them by smart metering. But after reviewing, we realized that we don't need to have smart meters all over. We just need a few of our customers on smart metering for now. Right.
So is the ambition with using smart meters for commercial and industrial users to reduce potential non-technical losses?
Yeah, basically it's an initiative to reduce the non-technical losses, and also we are slowly moving towards smart grid. So it's a milestone towards the implementation of smart grid. And another driver is that of managing renewable energy. So if you put smart meters, the assumption is that we'll be able to measure excess energy that is fed into the grid by customers with renewable energy, especially solar.
Does the utility have a smart grid blueprint, a vision of what you want to work towards?
Yeah, we do have a sequencing roadmap starting now until 2018. By 2018, we should have a fully fledged smart grid. So what we have done is, because of resource constraints, we are starting off with those areas, those functions which will add value now. Specifically, we are looking at what is called customer centricity, where we are looking at functions that will enhance customer service delivery and also revenue assurance. So revenue assurance, I'm talking of upfront collection of revenue. Because the idea is to have 100% prepaid customer base.
Yeah.
At the moment, we only have got about 60% of our customers where we derive 40% of our revenue on prepaid. So the other category, which give us 60% of our revenue, they are on postpaid, and that is high risk. So the idea is to resolve that by putting them on prepaid as well. So we've got a sequencing roadmap from now until 2018.
Okay.
Correct.
And then beyond that, the sort of bigger picture of the smart grid.
Yeah, beyond that will be just enhancing on the generation, on the transmission. But we should have at least covered about 80-90% of our requirements in terms of smart grid by 2018. So this is in line with there's a blueprint, economic blueprint in Zimbabwe called the ZETDC. Maybe you've heard about the ZETDC. So in ZETDC, we've got a target to have implemented 800,000 customers to have migrated to prepaid and smart metering by 2018.
Okay.
So the idea is to improve efficiency and effectiveness in terms of service delivery. So this is in line with the aspirations highlighted in the ZETDC blueprint.
And do you have a sort of standard in mind for meter technology, communication technology?
Yeah, in terms of metering technology, we've gone for the STS prepayment, which is doing very well. So in terms of improvement of efficiency, revenue collection, I mean, it's doing very well. And then also the other technology that we are going to implement is smart metering technology. So all those are actually documented in our metering strategy, which I have said covers up to 2018.
So I know you're here with a delegation from Zimbabwe looking for the right technology to deploy. You mentioned renewable energy. Are you looking at meters that will be able to kind of assess the load coming from perhaps commercial industrial users?
Oh, correct. We are here. There's quite a big delegation from Zimbabwe, including up to minister level, our CEO, our managing directors, our directors. So in Zimbabwe, we value training so much because that's why in the region, if you look at Zimbabwe, in terms of human capital, I think we are leading the pack. So our government, they value training, so that I think a lot of our expenditure is on training. So that's why I think we have sent quite a number of our team here, is to learn and also keep abreast with technological trends.
So you're talking, in a way, you're talking about smart energy by using renewables to come into the grid. I mean, is that part of the blueprint you put together?
Correct. There is. Actually, there's a project that is being implemented now where we are talking of about 135 megawatts. It's being implemented in a place called Gwanda in Zimbabwe. So it's a project that is already, I think the implementation is already started. The planning, before the end of the year, they should have started the implementation. That's about 135 megawatts, which will be fed into the grid. So to complement that, we also need to implement the other part of the smart metering. So we are actually moving both the sides, the renewable energy, smart metering, and the energy efficiency side.
So you see smart meters as a sensor that will allow you to manage the loads from renewables?
Actually, smart meters, they talk of prosumer. You know, consumers, before we used to have consumers who are just consuming, but with smart meters, consumers can also produce, hence the name prosumer. So in Zimbabwe, we are promoting the use of renewable energy so much that even our regulator, they've come up with a net metering policy where customers who have got excess energy will feed it back into the grid and they will be compensated for that. So we're talking of prosumers instead of just consumers.
So who are your kind of target prosumers? Are they the large, manufacturers, or could it be a residential?
We are looking at anyone.
Anyone.
You know, domestic customers can convert their rooftops and use the solar panels, so they can generate excess energy. So we are looking at any level. That's why we have got smart metering right up to single phase or current, right up to the domestic level. Of course, the bigger the customers, the better, but we are not choosing.
And would you look at creating some kind of smart grid test bed so that you can see how all these different parts are kind of linking together?
Yeah. Obviously, like I said, we are going to test the technology and see how feasible it is before we actually embrace the technology fully. So yeah, we are going to have a test case. Like in Zimbabwe, they are already in a town called Mtare. There's a pilot project being carried out where they are testing this solar technology. So we need to complement that with deploying the right technology, which is smart metering.
So do you feel you're quite sort of far, leading the pack? I think you mentioned that in terms of smart grid.
Yeah, in terms of smart grid, actually we are leading the pack because in Zimbabwe we are not just rushing, we are taking a calculated approach. So we've got people with the experience like myself. I used to work for Botswana Power Corporation, where we implemented the first smart metering project in Africa. That was in 2006. So I know the risks and the dangers of just going. So that's why we are taking a calculated risk. So I think in terms of the skills, the competence and experience, we are okay.
Obviously there is a lot of activity worldwide with smart grid and associations and alliances. Do you tap into any of those, or do you feel in Africa at the moment there's not enough kind of representation?
Actually, we are also, because you can't be isolated. This is a global village where you need to learn from others. Like in Zimbabwe, me specifically, I am on the IEC group. There's a work group which is working on development of smart city. It's I think Joburg City and the other South African utilities. So I am a member of that IEC work group where we are working on developing smart metering standards for Africa. So I think we are learning a lot from that group and we are implementing whatever we've learned back home.
And lastly, Wilfred, I know you're here, as I said, looking at technology. Is there anything kind of caught your eye that you think is applicable to your situation in Zimbabwe from the exhibition?
Yeah, from the exhibition we are learning quite a lot. I think there's a lot of developments from last year in terms of the smart metering technology. It's fast developing. So we are taking all those into account so that before we float our tender, of course, what we will not do is to align our specification to a particular supplier, but we'll just look at what is in the market and then so that we get the best. So I think coming to this forum actually has assisted us a lot, and I think we are going to take a number of good ideas back home, which will assist us improve our specifications and ideas.
And we should look out for the tender coming out. Is it in the next month or?
Yeah, actually it has to come out because we are targeting to have installed. We are going to start off with a pilot for 10,000 before we roll out 60,000. So the target is to have implemented the pilot, installed the pilots by end of December 2015. So we've got a tight timeline to implement this tender. So I think before the end of this month, we'll have floated the tender for the 10,000 pilot phase.
Great. Well, I wish you good luck and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We're at the African Utility Week studio. Thank you.